a land of boundless potential where innovation meets heritage and ambition fuels progress. Guided by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, we are building a future rooted in sustainable growth, partnerships, and shared prosperity. Import substitution. They identified 8 key priority sectors with high growth and import substitution potential that can help us as a country to save significant amounts of foreign currency on imports. These sectors include vehicles, tires, fertilizer, pharmaceuticals, iron and steel products, edible crude oil, leather and cement. Local content strategy implementation. The ministry established a dedicated committee comprising key industrialists to ensure that they spearhead the utilization of domestic resources across various sectors of the economy. Work is currently underway to come up with appropriate thresholds across selected sectors. This will help to assess those products that meet stipulated local content requirements. The ministry is also working closely with Buy Zimbabwe campaign and PRAS to ensure that there is a deliberate strategy by the government to procure locally where local industry has the capacity. Rural industrialization. Rural industrialization is at the core of the Second Republic and is being implemented through a whole-of-government approach involving all the relevant stakeholders. The aim is to promote the setting up of value addition and beneficiation industries in the rural areas, taking advantage of the natural resource endowments lying in various provinces. The Ministers of State for Provincial Affairs and Devolution continue to play a pivotal role in coordinating this and facilitating through availing of affordable land for setting up plants and the establishment of the necessary bulk infrastructure. Community share ownership trusts. These are equally important in attracting investments in rural areas. The priority for 2025 is to ensure that there is revival of some CSOTs that were functional before. Manufacturing for manufacturing. The Ministry of Industry and Commerce is working closely with the private sector in identifying intermediate manufacturing industries to ensure localization of some of the intermediate products used in the manufacturing processes, e.g. caustic soda, kraft paper, corrugated paper, ammonia gas, and pigment and coloring. Value chain optimization. The ministry is fostering linkages in agriculture, mining, and other sectors to ensure that the growth in these sectors can contribute equally to the growth of the local manufacturing sectors. Joint commitments are in place, for instance, with the Ministry of Agriculture to spearhead the growth of agro-based value chains. The ministry is spearheading the 10 prioritized value chains in the National Development Strategy 1. Bus and truck, cotton to clothing, dairy, fertilizer, iron and steel, leather, pharmaceutical, plastic waste, soya and sugar. Idle infrastructure. The ministry is working closely with local authorities across all the country's 10 provinces to identify idle industrial infrastructure, which has been lying idle for a long time, with a view to making them procedurally available to potential investors or businesses. Policies and strategies. Zimbabwe Industrial Reconstruction Growth Plan 2024 to 2025. Zimbabwe Industrial Reconstruction and Growth Plan ZIRGP October 2024 to December 2025 is a transitional framework to align the industrial policy with the National Development Strategy 2 2026 to 2030, in line with the Integrated Development Planning IDP and Integrated Results-Based Management IRBM. The Zimbabwe Motor Industry Development Policy 2018 to 2030 is a framework designed to promote the local assembly and exports for motor vehicles into the region and the rest of the world. It also aims to promote the utilization of available local raw materials and components parts in the vehicle assembling process, and will enable the industry to re-equip and replace obsolete machinery through technology transfer ventures, thereby shielding the industry against unfair competition and stimulating local demand. Pharmaceutical manufacturing strategy in Zimbabwe 2021 to 2025. The pharmaceutical strategy in Zimbabwe 2021 to 2025 has been necessitated by the realization that the local industry contributes marginally to the local medicine consumed locally, only 12%. The strategy is therefore designed to take the pharmaceutical industry to the next level by promoting local production and exports for medicines, and exports of medicines into the region and the rest of the world. The pharmaceutical sector is a priority in the National Development Strategy 1, 2021 to 2025. The Zimbabwe Leather Sector Strategy 2021 to 2030 sets out the priority programs and reforms to be implemented during this period. The programs and policies herein reflect the concerns of stakeholders in the leather industry and are anchored under the country's vision of achieving an upper middle class status economy by 2030. The leather sector strategy is framed against a backdrop of the creation of value by unlocking wealth for the players at each of the nodes, such as farmers, traders, merchants, suppliers, abattoirs, tanners, small-scale and large-scale manufacturers, and retailers. Zimbabwe Engineering Iron and Steel Sector Strategy 2022 to 2026. The strategy is a roadmap for revitalizing the iron and steel industry in Zimbabwe and promoting investments, value addition and beneficiation. This strategy is underpinned by the National Vision 2030, NDS1 2021 to 2025, and the Local Content Strategy. Commerce Sector Task Force on Business Malpractices. As the designated chair of the Task Force on Business Malpractices, the Ministry of Industry and Commerce has, indeed, been spearheading the nationwide anti-smuggling blitz and coordinating the blitz programs in all the 10 provinces. The task force seeks to carry out enforcement, compliance, and inspection checks guided by provisions of the Consumer Protection Act, Trade Measures Act, Food and Food Standards Act, Customs and Excise Act, and Immigration Act, among other pieces of legislative instruments. Seize and confiscating of all non-compliant products as required by law, focusing on the production of relevant importation documentation, correct weights and measurements, as well as the required quality, purity, and the generally prescribed standards defined by law. Educate consumers and the general citizenry on the dangers of consuming substandard products, smuggling, engaging in business malpractices, and consumer rights in line with the requirements of the law, such as the Consumer Protection Act, Food and Food Standards Act, as well as the Customs and Excise Act, among others. Ensure that all unscrupulous businesses are made to account for their misdemeanors through making sure that all perpetrators are brought to book, through prosecutions and confiscations of their products. Gather as much market intelligence information as possible, which is critical for helping in detecting possible leads, hotspots areas, nature of violations, modus operandi, among others. The ministry is working with all the enforcement agents, including the ministry's Trade Measures Department, as well as regulators, including the Consumer Protection Commission, ZIMRA, ZRP, in the spirit of the Wall of Government Systems approach. The Consumer Protection Commission has now partnered with Geopomona Waste Management for purposes of destroying all the seized goods and products that are no longer fit for human consumption to ensure that they do not find their way back into the market. Promoting basic consumer rights, the right to choose, the right to education, the right to information, the right to fair contractual arrangements, the right to be heard, representation and redress, the right to health and safety, including the e-commerce domain. The commerce sector. The commerce sector is one of the key strategic pillars in Zimbabwe, availing goods and services to consumers, contributing to the gross domestic product (GDP) and generating employment. The ministry ensures that consumers are empowered since they are critical in the production, distribution and consumption of quality goods and services. The country has witnessed the construction of shopping malls, merchandise shops, and boutiques, which has led to a significant increase in employment opportunities for the citizens. Notable examples are pick and pay outlets, Simbisa Brands, OK Shops, Electrosales, Housesteads, Pomona Industrial Park, Spa 5 Avenue, Bon Marché, Saimat Plumtree. The ministry is implementing the National Quality Policy, which seeks to establish a framework of enhanced coordination and collaboration among the national quality infrastructure and technical regulations institutions. This ensures that goods produced in Zimbabwe and supplied in local, regional, and international markets comply with stated and intended quality requirements. The policy also promotes a quality-conscious culture amongst all the citizens. The Consignment-Based Conformity Assessment (CBCA) program. The ministry is implementing the CBCA program, a pre-export verification of conformity (PVOC) program. The program aims to curtail the importation of substandard products that compromise consumer safety and health and negatively impact our local industries' competitiveness. The program's implementation ensures that all regulated products imported into the country are assessed and a certificate of conformity is issued to demonstrate the compliance of the products with local or approved international standards. CBCA service providers enlisted by the government of Zimbabwe: Peru Veritas, Cotensa, EAA, Standards Association of Zimbabwe. Trade Measures Department. In many cases, a measurement is done to get information on the basis of which a decision is made. Wrong or inaccurate measurements can lead to wrong decisions which can have serious consequences, costing a lot of money or even lives. Metrology is the science and practice of measurements. Legal metrology is that part of metrology which is subject to legal regulatory control. Application of legal metrology. Legal metrology is applied in these broad fields of human activities, namely commercial transactions, industrial measurements, measurements needed for ensuring public health and human safety, environmental protection. The department operates under an Act of Parliament cited as Trade Measures Act, Chapter 14 of 23. The Act, which provides for the application of legal metrology, covers the following aspects: legal units of measurement, namely SI units, physical presentation of units, hierarchy of physical measurement standards, their maintenance and custody, technical regulations on measuring instruments used in trade as regards their metrological and technical requirements, metrological control, verification of measuring instruments used in trade and manufacturing, metrological control on pre-packed consumer goods, control on the manufacture, repair, and sale of measuring instruments, levy of fees and institute prosecution of offenders, economic benefits, consumer confidence, level playing field for commercial transaction, effective stock control, reduced disputation and transaction cost, full national benefit for commodity export, full collection of government excise and taxes based on measurements. Activities and services. The day-to-day duties of trade measures inspector, legal metrologists consists of the following: verification of measuring instruments for mass, length and volume used in trade and industry, inspection on consumer goods at factory and retail level to verify correct measurement and labeling of such goods, detection of offenders and taking necessary legal action as provided in the Trade Measures Act and regulations. Common offenses. The following are common offenses that consumers should be wary of: underfilled prepackages, underweight prepackages, incorrect retail scales or other retail measuring instruments, for example, petrol pumps, etc. Prepaid goods not labeled with the quantity contents, prepacked goods labeled on imperial units, feet, pounds, gallons, etc. Deceptive packages, consumer goods in unprescribed quantities, use in trade of unapproved illegal measuring instruments, measuring instruments subject to periodic verification, weighbridge high-capacity scales, industrial and retail scales, bulk fuel meters, liquid measuring instruments, length measuring instruments, vehicle tank measures, engineering instruments, weights.